I got the horse right here, the name is Paul Revere, and here's a guy that says if the weather's clear, can do. This guy says the horse can do.
Part 2 of Monday Rant. We're off to Canterbury this week. Back up at Canterbury. So Friday night, first meeting back, and then Wednesday, 5 days later, or 4.5 days later, Canterbury. Gord, what was your take on Canterbury last Friday night?
I backed a lot of second places.
Yeah, how did it play? What did you think? Blah, blah, blah.
It played more fair than I was expecting, really.
The horses are unlucky on the inside. They were sort of waiting. They rode for their luck on the inside.
Did you make Cougar like you were going to, Gord?
Yes. I thought it was a dead set moral. Yeah. So
and beaten by the horse that it gives the run to. It's one of those one of those nasty situations for fancied horses where they have to try and get off earlier, and then they end up presenting an opportunity to another sniper.
Last week was frustrating like that, Mark. I think even Wednesday was the same. And by the way, I'm a betting in so many places I get confused. But you know what I mean. On Sunday when you're sort of like analysing what you did the previous week, and the thing is, I've backed 22 seconds and 3 winners, and I'll give away the 3 winners if the 22 seconds lob. So anyway, it was one of those weeks where it could have been big and it was difficult. So yeah. Anyway.
Right, that's Canterbury Wednesday. Kembla is Saturday, and
at the Gong.
Weather is going to be okay. Whatever rain we're going to have is pretty much last night, which is an inch at Canterbury apparently. And the rail was out 9 for the Saturday program there on Saturday, and they got very wide. I don't know, back to the true. We'll wait and see. I'll get to that on Friday, obviously. But last Thursday was a race at Port Macquarie that you want to talk about, Glenn.
Well, I just minding my business, betting on Port, watching them race, and I thought, did I hear that right? And the call up there, I think is it Rod Fuller?
K second, Caillou is third, 2 further back, Masai Mara, 2.5, Monte Di Fiore, lights, camera, action, clear of Typhoon, Netter and Pointer, and last of all was Love Rat to the 200. It still wants the lady in front, looming ominously as Caillou on the outside, head case to third, but Caillou races up, puts the neck in front.
There it is. For you punters out there, will know if your horse gets a dick in front. Rod just told you.
Good on him too. Good on him.
Pretty funny stuff, Rod. I know you meant neck. But
once a lady who's second. Love Rat is working home well, but another victory to Caillou. 3 on the bounce. Caillou goes home to win by a length and a half. Love Rat's prominent for second. With time.
Because of the names of the other horses, the lady name and the Love Rat name, I reckon just subconsciously he's had dick instead of neck.
Give it to us one more time, Mark, for the punters that didn't hear it.
Third, but Caillou races up, puts the neck in front. Over once a lady
in front. As Matt Taylor once said about me, my eyes and ears are always frigging open.
Yes.
Very good.
Fine by me, that, boys. I couldn't wait to send it to Mark. Put this on the show. I found something beautiful.
Funny. That's awesome. Awesome.
And that reminds me, Rod Fuller reminds me, has anybody heard from Dave Diamond?
I've seen Dave a couple of times at Rose Hill.
I've seen him. He's big in the races. Yeah, he's going good.
Speaking of Rose Hill, dear Mark, I am writing to provide you with an important update on the Rose Hill Gardens proposal. The ATC board has decided to hold an EGM on 3rd April 2025 for members to vote on the proposal.
And there's the meeting tonight too for...
there's a candidates forum tonight. So there are 2 positions. On the 7-member board, there are 2 positions. I didn't realise that 3...
Is Helen Jones going for one of them? Maybe not.
Yes. He is.
Maybe not.
He's going to bring his ankle monitor with him.
Yeah. and he's generally thinking of other positions.
Anyway, the Save Rose Hill party, for want of a better term, they've endorsed 2 candidates, neither of which is our man, ranter Brad Harris. those of you that were
What's happened? He hasn't made the final two.
No, he's number one on the ticket, but he hasn't endeared himself to the Save Rose Hill people, so he hasn't got their endorsement. But let me read you Brad Ranter, his platform. He says, when I ran in the last board elections 2022, my two key policies, which I retain, were 1, a refocus on Rose Hill with a different market positioning to Randwick and long-term planning and initiatives to better engage high-growth Western Sydney, and 2, to further develop punter education, engagement and community with wagering our major source of revenue. The club could take a bigger role in deepening the racing knowledge of our membership as a key benefit to being part of a racing club. The approach might include forums on race analysis or a race day speaker series or interesting articles on form, breeding or training included in most member communications. I'd like to also address the Wi-Fi service that drops out on the biggest days with a separate secured Wi-Fi zone to members' areas. Regarding the Rosehill sale proposal, the documents released to date are incomplete and financially unsubstantiated. The board is entitled time to work through the details, and hopefully members will be provided with comprehensive information in due course. Nevertheless, I consider the proposal strategically flawed. I'm strongly opposed to the sale of Rosehill. Racing needs 2 major metro tracks in Sydney, ideally located where we can best present a racing experience that excites the public and grows participants. If racing evolves more towards a TV product with a key track relocated to the city fringe, it reduces its ability to compete against sports betting and other live events. Rosehill is exceptionally well placed within the high-density, high-rise future becoming apparent for Sydney's middle ring suburbs. Light rail is being constructed with expansion plans that will improve links to a larger population catchment than Randwick. Randwick is a mature asset, while Rosehill is our growth asset and where the club can innovate. The logic of selling must be compelling enough to overcome its significant locational advantages and a history that underwrites cultural support, which hasn't been demonstrated. Brad says, the key contribution I can make is to offer my decades of experience working on major projects to ensure that any proposal put to members is robust and achievable, and that development plans are professional scrutiny. Further, that any construction work we do undertake is risk managed with effective control. So that's Brad's platform. Any of you
sounds like Brad knows a bit too much about racing to be put on any board in racing.
Well, the thing is, with the ATC board, there's 7 members and 3 of them are government appointed. So there's McGoran, there's one of the ladies, and David McGrath, who we met at Lismore that time, Glenn. He's a government appointee. And it suggested to me that Lindsay has been co-opted to run for the election in order to basically vote with McGoran and the other 2 government appointees, as in, come on, Lindsay, you're a good guy, you'll do what we say.
And what are they trying to say? Sell Rose Hill?
Yeah.
Oh, so Lindsay's going to support Sell Rose Hill.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that. I mean,
So they've just subbed in the high-profile guy. There's Auto going to get the seat.
Who's the nice
like
guy?
A good little sheep.
Yep.
Well, that's disgusting.
Well, that's how they do these.
I know this is how it works.
So just anyone who's voting for Lindsay, beware that whilst I think I love Lindsay, but beware of what you're voting for there. The ATC Director's Report came out last week. It says, here's its short and long-term objectives of the ATC. To be a world-class centre for thoroughbred racing and training with a focus on horse welfare and safety. 2, to be a...
Isn't safety the new go-to?
Well, I've got to say that right now, Pat Murphy just dropped down to number 4. I've just readjusted his current performance ratings, and I've dropped his rating down to 4th.
Mark's only guessing that. I can't imagine that's right.
2, to be a highly capable customer-centric organisation. I love the buzz.
Eccentric, did you say? Oh, sorry, centric.
3, create memorable experiences for Instagram and destinations that inspire customers, industry, staff, and communities.
Did you say for Instagram?
No, I put that in brackets.
Oh.
Grow and enhance brand and reputation. 4, leverage balance sheet strength to position for long-term sustainability and growth. And 6, continue to work with members and the New South Wales government on the potential for a metro station at Rosehill. So their strategy is, this is the strategy of the ATC, enhance racing and training facilities and programs to increase field sizes and deliver stronger racing and wagering outcomes. Invest in membership, hospitality and event experiences for all patrons. Invest in people, technology and smart systems to improve customer service, visitation and spend. Protect the club's interests in its 4 racecourses by conducting effective master planning and stakeholder engagement processes for each site. Establish and maintain effective relationships with key stakeholders. The company's principal activities during the year will be to conduct 110 race meetings, provide training facilities for 1,750 horses, maintain its 4 racecourses and venues, and host over 3,000 diverse non-race day meetings and events. 3,000. Host over 3,000 diverse non-race day meetings and events. And finally, to progress the concept master plan.
What's that per year?
During the year, it says.
That's 60 a week.
I don't know what they're talking about.
Someone buying a sausage roll isn't an event.
I don't know. But anyway, it's a racing club and they're not very interested in whatever generates all the revenue, which admittedly they don't collect. The tab collects all their revenue, but they're not very interested in cultivating that revenue.
Wow. I did giggle this morning that the Labor Party are struggling for anything to do, any new ideas of hoping in the year 2025 in 13 months, as of January the 1, that all businesses must offer cash as a viable way to purchase the necessary items. Which will be funny for the race club because they've got all this time like, oh no, we don't take cash, we doesn't do this and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But a viable item is a pie at the track.
So, so essential foods, you mean?
Essential anything, essential services have to accept cash.
Excellent.
Of course.
Yeah, they're only saying 6
beer too. Beer's essential.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Bloody oath it is.
It is. So,
although I don't really drink beer, I drink red wine, but anyway.
The ATC,
Good,
the ATC will measure its performance.
You know what's going to be great? I'll go out there with just cash and I'll use your credit card, Glenn. That'll just give me so much pleasure.
No, you're always welcome to use it, but I promise you, fingers crossed.
I could get embarrassed at the front of the line, could I? Oh.
It's when you use my credit card, it's like having another bet. It's a bit of a thrill.
Well, then I'll have to get the credit card that I told you I didn't bring to the races out of my wallet.
Oh, you did.
Very good. Anyway, the ATC will measure its performance based on whether they can increase international participation in carnival race programs.
This international push, like honestly, I just love it.
It's, I suppose it's media. It generates.
It sounds big, doesn't it? I get it.
I did laugh. There was someone involved in racing. He was on TV. Can't remember his exact name, but he was pushing for something. Or so I don't even know what I'm talking about, but I know he's a friend of PVL's. He's on the board with PVL or whatever. And the first words that come out of his mouth is, "We've got to be disruptors." Like this fucking disruptors word.
Yeah. It was good when it first started happening, but then it's like the window washers at the traffic lights. Once everyone grabs hold of it, it's punishing.
It is fucking punishing. Disruptors. We tried to be disruptors at the RANT. PVL couldn't drag us in there quick enough.
Yeah. But, they always have their go-to words and they go through phases, like you'll go to a meeting and next they're saying disruptor for a year and then it goes on to, the next some other word.
Say, like fucking cocksucker dickhead. At least I understand what that means.
Well, Willow sent you this in, Glenn. Willow about Willow. And if I can actually...
Willow's a long-time ranter, guys. Been with us a long time now, Willow.
And a good ranter. And
we're yet to catch up with him for a beer as well. We've been promising to do it for years.
I have met him. Who is this?
So this is the jockey is Willow, the jockey, Craig Williams.
Mr. Brightside. Is that his kid?
No, that's not his kid. He's doing a kid's tyre.
He's a cherubic little thing. The only problem with that kid is he's about 8 going on 22.
So the tweet reads, moments before the Champions Mile, Craig Williams has the time to tie a young fan's tie.
Hard to know.
It is a very Craig Williams thing to do, isn't it?
Look, he's a bloody nice bloke. He genuinely is a nice bloke.
Yeah, I know. He's just a bit too nice for us, Claude.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, but
No, Willow's just
honest, I don't find him as sickening as some of the other.
Yeah.
What do we call that segment? Whatever. Teacher's pet. You know.
Yeah.
I think he's in the teacher's pet team.
Well, if you want to test,
he's not top 10. He's not top 10 people.
Testing my character, I went to a party Saturday night, and there was about 5 24-year-olds. They're all moping around, very unhappy, and their 23-year-old mate had killed himself 2 days ago, and one of them said, "Oh, old mate killed himself," and I said, "Oh, well, if he wanted to go."
Yeah, but I say that all the time.
Yeah,
people don't. Do you know what I say to people when somebody commits suicide?
See you later.
Well, that's the cure. He didn't want to live, so he killed himself. It's
is.
called a cure. That's the cure.
I got to use that. Oh, the young people thought I was the lowest thing that ever fucking lived. No, if he doesn't want to be here.
But I mean, people think it's so bad because of the effect that religion has on our society about it being such a
partly,
thing.
no, but they think about themselves. I mean, it's the people you leave behind when you die that have.
Yeah, but if those people
grief.
you leave behind celebrated it and said he didn't want to live, so he killed himself.
Good attitude.
Well, then that's the attitude you should have of the person that's still alive.
It's too good to go out with a positive thought. Achieve your goals.
Yeah. Exactly.
Glenn didn't have the guts.
Glenn was a coward.
Yeah.
7 years ago from the tree in Racing Rant Park, it was a promise.
Yeah, but I thought I'd
deliver.
be out of debt by then, so I can't go now.
I think most people think the other way round. I know
they do.
They
don't know how to chase. Me and Willow know how to chase.
Well, maybe the Turkish racing will be.
Do you know there's another argument you can make as well? And I always found this one quite interesting. And that is, the argument is, and this is to be debated, I'm not sure one way or the other, but the ultimate sign of intelligence and human nature would be to commit suicide. Because you don't see lions committing suicide, do you? You don't see the animal kingdom. Now, obviously, we've got the whales, but I think that's just a miss of radar thing, rather than actual suicide. So what is the case where animals actually choose to commit suicide? I'd say never. Therefore, the ultimate sign of humanity is to commit suicide.
Yeah, free will.
Well, a positive message here from Racing Rant for our customers. Now, Mark, I need to jump in.
Yeah, jump away.
Darren Beedman actually showed this to me on his phone the other day. Someone had sent it to him. It was very kind of him because it was just fantastic viewing. And if anyone's out there got it, can you send it to Mark or email them up? We'll put it on next week's show. So they had the trot driver in West Australia. You know how they do the parade? They usually have a stupid girl chasing after the drivers. Oh, what do you think? Oh, yeah, I'll go good. Oh, thanks. It's just all rubbish. Anyway, I think it was a boy. Yeah, it was a boy. He, young man. He caught up to one of the drivers, and it's videotaped. It's been it went out to Sky, and asked him, "This horse has got a bit of gate speed. Are you going to use it?" It's a fair question. Good. Had barrier 5 or barrier 6.
Great question.
And the driver said, now Darren showed me because he haven't sent it to him. He said, if this was New South Wales, you'd get 3 or 6 months. Over there, this driver got a $200 fine. He said, am I going to use it? He said, it's like having a cock and not pulling it. Of course I'm going to use it. That's what,
which means nothing to you, Glenn.
No, I don't understand that. But it was just like,
well,
wow.
I'm saying that he should have got a $200 bonus.
Jeez, it was the way he said it too with such determination to grab his cock after the race. But it was very, very, very humorous, and it was doing the rounds in social media. So if someone out there's got it, could they email it to Racing Round or something? Because we'd love it.
Well, did Darren say that? Did you see this on Newcastle on Saturday, Glenn? Because did Darren say this just after K-Mac rode that horse in race 1, where he jumped a length in front and tagged it?
Didn't use it.
That's so you should put those 2 clips together and say, hey, Darren, have you got a comment here?
Anyway, pretty funny viewing.
So, for mentioning the tab betting on Turkey soon, our Southeast Asian or Asian correspondent says, wow, the Turkey link is an interesting one for the tab. Gee, Glenn should be aware of Turkish racing. I know he doesn't follow Tasmania, where a number of Turkish riders now ply their trade, but in 1988 we had Turkish jockeys riding at Warwick Farm in an invitation series as part of the Asian Racing Conference that year.
Wow.
But I digress, and it's not Tim Williams.
Oh.
Very interesting to know how the tote dividends will be decided if tab operates on Turkish racing, or is it just tab fixed odds? No, they're betting tote. The actual Turkish tote has a 38% takeout, and there are often two odds-on favourites in the same race.
Obviously, yeah.
When I went to the Istanbul races in 2012, while attending the Asian Racing Conference, I couldn't believe that I saw racing officials who at least claimed to understand something about betting charging in to bet on the Turkish tote. So if the tab operates on Turkish racing with a tote pool, either they have to take a huge chunk out and pay Turkish divs, or they separate the pools into OS and domestic and have their own takeout, in which case I'd imagine the Turkish pools will crash as any punters there find a way to bet into a 16% takeout with tab.
Wow. That's hard going in Turks. No wonder they always seem so cranky. They got like two odds on chances in a race. They got girls with bikini lines down to their knees, and all they do is eat Turkish bread. No, they're just like, what a
I tell you what, you've obviously never been to Turkey. There are so many beautiful women in Turkey.
No,
Jesus,
that's right.
They look hairy to me. Leave me out.
So Glenn, I've
never been to Turkey.
Hey, can I just say, Mark, does that mean that Jelko's getting a 38% rebate?
Well, yeah, he's approached the Turkish tote and said, "Look, the only way I'm going to."
Well, one of the biggest shareholders in the joint who's now passed is Peter Bowen, who's a good friend of mine. I played tennis with him every Friday night for a year and a half, and I, never said much because he's in Jelko's crew and they keep their cards very close to their chest. But we loosened up, blah, didn't ask too much, and I just said once, "What's the biggest result for the joint that you guys had?" And he said, "You wouldn't believe it. Our biggest winning result," and it was obviously because of the rebate too, was Polish trots. I said, "Oh, what? Not much percentage?" He said, "No, 155% of the total."
What?
Yeah.
Polish trots. So obviously able to bet in, work out a way to finish square and get a 30% rebate or something. But he even told me it was Polish trots.
Wow.
Well, that was 15 years ago. It might have changed.
Well, that would be ROI, not because I'm assuming the pools wouldn't be massive, but
yeah. How would you know? How could there ever be things two odds on one race and you want to bet? Don't you?
What do you mean? Mark and I have been bookmaker. Well, I was working for Mark, and he had two odds on pots on the board, I think.
Rosehill Picnics. Yep.
Yeah.
Rosehill Picnics.
I don't know whether you ever did, but it would have been very easy to do, wouldn't it, Mark? So, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
it's so funny how expert you are, Gord, at this game, but put you on a race course, you look like a fish out of water.
I fucking I'm just not comfortable. Look, I know what's going on. I just don't feel comfortable.
Yeah.
No, you just look like a fish out of water.
Yeah.
You can't swim.
It's not your scene. Back on that 88, do you remember the riders coming out, Glenn? Colin Tuck is serving as an agent for 7 of the 9 international jockeys in Australia for the Asian Racing Conference. The riders who are keen to ride at Gosford on Thursday, this is in 1988, are Bahrain's Hassan Azat, India's Pesi Daddy Shroff, Japan's Hiroyuki Gohara and Seiichi Kotaki, Korea's Mayung Kim, Malaysia's Eun Guang Liang, and Turkey's Ahmet Atsi. All right, so here's the field. I'll show you this.
This is from 1988.
Yeah, I haven't got any footage, unfortunately, but Korean jockey fell off, I'm pretty sure. KL U. So there was the Turkey trophy. You would have bet in this race, Glenn.
Yeah, I would have bet it for sure. I know what I bet.
And 8's into 9-2 there, Jay Marshall on High Spy.
It won the race?
Yeah, it won the race. Tony Cruz was a visiting jockey, ran second, got beaten 3 1/4.
So I had a very good friend who was talking to Johnny Marshall when he was alive, because he's dead now, John. Died young. And if I gave you 30 people to say who was the hardest whip rider that you ever rode against, the hardest whip rider, there's not one of you'd get it. Like, you wouldn't get it. And he just looked at me and said, "Oh, there's only one." And because we're all going, Dittman.
Yeah.
Guess who the hardest whip rider was that he ever rode against? Peter Cook. Hanson
No
Heels.
way.
Yeah, soft hands. He said because he had those beautiful soft hands, but when you got up next to him, when he went crack, he said you nearly jumped off your horse. It was that loud, the hit, and no one ever saw it. That's an interesting thing, isn't it, Mark?
It is.
I thought you'd like that.
No, I did. I wouldn't have. Yeah, you're
No,
right.
you wouldn't have picked
got
it.
it. Wouldn't have got it. Wouldn't have got it. Wouldn't have got it. He's a pretty rider. Lost his nerve late. You used to lay him from barrier one. But anyway, that's in the past. Let's get back.
I was just googling whether Atzini was actually a Turkish jockey. That he's not. He's Italian. Anyway.
Oh yeah, the rider of the Sydney Cup winner, Circle of Fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nigel wrote in last week saying, "Hi Mark, here's something you could mention when reviewing race 5 on Saturday gone by. That was with Unique Ambition falling over. That I noticed come out of the Yank Stakes won by Lekvart, which was a slowly run race that possibly flattered a few on paces. One, Pop and Champagne goes from previously running places at Fillies and Mares midweekers, ridden to advantage to run a solid 4th in a black type race. As a result, it incurred an 11-point rating boost, meaning next start it was forced to race the boys in the benchmark 78. So it went up 5.5 kilos for running 4th in that race, which is insightful. Other people would have realised it, but yeah, of course. So Pop and Champagne's actually gone up nearly a stone in weight for running 4th at 100-1 there. And Unique Ambition won a 72 midway and then ran 5th in the black type. So it went up 11 points for winning and running 5th. And so it went up 5.5 kilos from preceding its midway win at its next start. So you're right, Nigel. The horses that run front half in a black type race do get punished when they go back to the 78s, and they're not as well placed. Joe Bubkus. Hi, Mark. Yeah. After 5 years living in London and Paris and being a loyal customer for what seems like 20 years, it's time for me to pause my account. My European adventure is over at the end of this year, and I'll be literally taking a slow boat from London back to Sydney with no timelines in mind. I remained a big fan of the show and of you and Glenn personally, and wish to thank you both for all the knowledge you've given me on my punting journey. When I'm back in Sydney, maybe Marchish, I will look you up and start the whole journey again. Wishing you all the best of luck, Joe Bubkus.
Good luck to you, Joe.
And
he's not coming back on a slow boat, is he? So what, just stopping here and stopping there?
I guess so. He's just winding his way back.
Sounds like fun to me.
So,
unless he's in a 40-foot container.
Yes, indeed. So he's attached 2 photos. He recently took at Royal Ascot for the first day of the jump season. Very good crowd for a Saturday. And for every umbrella you see, that's an independent bookie. So let's have a look at those. So there's the first photo. There's a good looking crowd. First day of the jump season. There are the bookies there.
Wow.
And there's the other photo.
Great photos. Bit of colour there in the bookies ring with the umbrellas good.
Yeah, I remember when I was betting over there, a few racetracks. It's a long time ago now, but it still had like a feel of photos I'd seen of Dad and you guys or whatever, Australia 50 years ago kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they were still writing the tickets out as well.
Yeah. Indeed. Thanks for that, Joe.
Good luck, Joe.
We'll see you next year, 2025. So Peter, what's his name? Gary Bruce. He says he's written in about an article that was published in 2012, but he goes on to talk about a greyhound that's been forced to change its name. So this one in 2012, one of Australia's top trainers has been ordered to change the name of one of his young racehorses. Hall of Fame trainer David Hayes has been told 2-year-old filly Blackman cannot keep her original name. The filly who's
a racist.
The filly this has happened in 2012. The filly whose father is excellent art was named after renowned Australian artist Charles Blackman.
Yeah.
But the change was ordered by Riser, which controls the registration and naming racehorses, after it received one complaint. Certainly the name itself is a surname and certainly respected the connection back to the artist Charles Blackman after which it was named, the spokesman said, but we found that where the name is used without the known context back to a surname, it could be construed as being offensive, which is where ultimately the complaint started. Through a consultative process, what we've landed at is retaining the original part of the name but placed Lady in front of it, so it is now known as Lady Blackman. The Riser spokesman said requests to change inappropriate names were rare. I think probably on average a name would be changed where a complaint has been raised about once a year, and we name around 13,000 names a year. David Payne, Sydney trainer, said, I think it's crazy. What happens if you call a horse Whiteman? Would you have to change the name as well? It's just ridiculous. Payne said he was forced to change the name of a horse in his native South Africa. One of my clients called it Islam, and we had to change the name, but I think that's more serious than Blackman. The Thoroughbred Racehorse Owners Association of Victoria says the case highlights the perils of naming. In the context of how a horse was named in particular, I think that is the most disappointing aspect. The horse is by a stallion called Excellent Art and was named after a famous painter, and therefore in the context it is Blackman, not Black Man. It was one complaint. We find that a little bit incongruous. But having had a look at the rules again, they're fairly clear that the registrar can do whatever they please and whatever they deem necessary under the rules. But prominent racing journalist Max Presnell says racing is a raffish and colourful world, and blacklisting Blackman is a step too far. There's a horse called Merkin, which happens to be a pubic wig. That was changed. We go back to the distant dark ages where a horse was imported from England called the Bastard. It had to be changed to the Buzzard. But in the modern era, we've had a lot of long names like Tax Me If You Can. There was a horse that raced at Warwick Farm last Saturday, Rachna Farage. Dodd will pick me up on that one. Rachna Farage. Now, that's an Irish name. The pronunciation I couldn't attempt on radio, but that's part and parcel of racing. We've had horses going back more recent past, Richard Cranium, but they never changed it. So I think we're just getting a shade more, shall we say, temperamental about it. Anyway, Gary Bruce goes on to say, a greyhound that had one start before a forced name change was the cleverly named bitch Norma Stitz. In his pre-race cross back to the studio, caller Ronnie Hawkswell relayed that Norma Stitz had good support. Once the race was on and she dutifully pinged the lids for an early lead, Ronnie pronounced that Norma's tits has bounced out in front.
Oh, Norma's tits. See, when you said Norma's tits, I didn't even know what it meant.
That's
Norma's
how
tits is funny.
That's how they didn't pick it up.
Norma's
it was deliberate.
Tits has bounced out. Norma's tits. Okay, wow. That's clever.
Yeah, it is clever.
Once you start blacklisting names like that.
Yeah.
Oh, no, Glenn. You're not allowed to say blacklisting anymore.
Oh, okay, blacklisting.
You can't say blacklisting anymore.
You're right, George. Yeah. So
Yeah,
is it wrong when I call you a ginger cunt?
Yeah.
Very, very off that. Glenn.
Not at all. Not at all.
So weird.
Do you know it's jockey? Jose Severo rode his first winner in Australia last week.
Oh, I'm very happy. It's very emotional. I would like to say one big thank you for Chris Lee and his team. So give me hard support for everything to become true. I would like to say one big thank you too for John Moreira for helping me in how the process. My new dad here, Malcolm. So everybody, Stuart giving me license for showing me my work. I'm very happy for everything becomes true now, and step by step I'm very happy.
And Chris has been terrific, but Mal and all of the boys and girls at the stable have been...
No more Gavin Carmody.
He looks like a nice young chap.
Yeah, so he's Joao's cousin.
Oh, he's a cousin.
And he rode Lukey at Scone last week.
Good. Oh, who's got him? Chris Lees?
Well, he's riding for Chris Lees.
Yeah, he said Chris.
He's 24, so he's...
And Mal would be Malcolm Johnson, is it?
No, Malcolm...
Who's Mal?
Fitzgerald? No, I don't know.
Might be Mal Fitzgerald.
Someone in the team. Someone in the team.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, be able to stay about 10 years, ride for 10 years, and then he can become a Sky tipster. He'll have the English down pat by then. Not that most of them have got the English down pat yet, some of the girls.
Right. Mark Latham.
Hard to talk with those fake lips.
Mark Latham has introduced a bill to New South Wales Parliament. Well, he is, I suppose he's good value, Mark Latham, in some ways. So listen to this. This is his speech to introduce the bill. This bill, I won't read the name of it too long, is urgently needed to restore integrity to the work of Racing New South Wales. Due to a lack of accountability for over 20 years, the compliant board of directors, heavily compromised media and politicians, and a power networking CEO, the racing regulator has lost its bearings, breaching every decent, ethical and probity standard. It is, in fact, Racing New South Wales believes it is the law, free to misappropriate money, present fraudulent accounts, abuse its regulatory power, dispense favouritism, breach workplace laws, intimidate industry participants, mislead Parliament, out whistleblowers, and silence its critics by setting its media acolytes upon them. I now turn to the evidence of law breaking at Racing New South Wales, reminding the House that we are talking about a regulator, which is a body entrusted by this Parliament and the people of New South Wales to act with the highest levels of integrity and honesty and to be impeccable at all times. The key whistleblower has come forward to the Rosehill Select Committee and has also been in contact with me as a Member of Parliament. He is a former employee of Racing New South Wales, well qualified to know about the matters he has reported. He has grown disappointed with the failure of the Select Committee on Rosehill to act on his sworn evidence of criminality at Racing New South Wales. The committee has one meeting left, a deliberative on 29th of November, at which it will finalise its report and say it has run out of time to do something about Racing New South Wales. He's given us a sneak preview there. These select committees have a sunset built into them. I have informed the committee of 13 instances of the CEO, Peter V'landys, misleading it, yet no action has been taken under the Procedural Fairness Resolution to call V'landys as a witness to interrogate his breaches of the Parliamentary Evidence Act. The key whistleblower provided sworn evidence of New South Wales and Commonwealth laws being broken. Section 316 of the Crimes Act requires citizens to report serious crimes to the police. One would have thought the responsibility of a Member of Parliament in this regard is even greater. The whistleblower has released me from any confidentiality provisions and the restriction of being a participating member on the Select Committee. He has bravely taken the risk of retribution from Racing New South Wales. He wants the truth to be known. He wants the lawbreakers to be brought to justice. He wants to break the media and political protection racket and use the policing and integrity agencies of government to clean up Racing New South Wales. He wants me to report to the House 4 serious breaches of the law, each of them justifying the provisions in the bill. Firstly, during the COVID period, Racing New South Wales fraudulently claimed JobKeeper payments it knew it was not entitled to. Graham Hinton, COO, told the accountants Peter V'landys wanted to claim JobKeeper and they should work out a way of doing it. Racing New South Wales was ineligible because thoroughbred racing continued during COVID. People were locked in their homes, online gambling increased, and Racing New South Wales' revenue rose. Under the ATO criteria for JobKeeper, a 30% revenue reduction was required. Racing New South Wales received $500,000 a month in JobKeeper over 6 months, a total of $3 million in Commonwealth emergency payments to which it was not entitled. The money was hidden in its accounts, apparently recorded in the salary expenditure account as a credit. JobKeeper was claimed from April to September 2020, with $1.5 million in each financial year 2020 and 2021. Even more brazenly, the CEO used the money to pay each of his managers a COVID bonus of $5,000. He took money he was not entitled to and put it in the pockets of people like Hinton. Fraud of this kind is a crime and should be prosecuted. Second, Racing New South Wales withheld financial payments to a number of race clubs so that they could too falsely claim JobKeeper. The accounts were ordered to make it look like their revenue was down. This is an even worse crime, conspiring with others to defraud the Commonwealth. I urge the authorities to investigate and prosecute those involved. Maybe even our reluctant racing minister might do something. Numerous problems at Racing New South Wales have been brought to his attention, to which he always says, it's a matter for Racing New South Wales. Surely not now. Chris Minns has been a persistent public defender of Peter V'landys. We have to go back to Bob Askin and his defence of crooked police commissioners in the 60s to find a New South Wales Premier who so lavishly defended a crooked public official. Remember when Minns promised higher standards of integrity in government? No, don't worry, neither does he. If he believed in honesty and integrity, he'd order a full investigation into the financial practices of Racing New South Wales, but he will not. He's in too deep and too fearful, too worried about the calls from those media protectors who tell him what to do. Financial misappropriation is the real story at Racing New South Wales, the one that this Parliament should act on, even if others do not. Third in this list of illegalities, Racing New South Wales cheats on its FBT, Fringe Benefits Tax. It provides a huge amount of free hospitality to its staff on race days, especially the big ones at Randwick, but never declares this FBT. These events are worth up to $1,000 per head. A Racing New South Wales accountant was once bold enough to include these amounts in the FBT lodgement. Volandis found out and went off his head, excluding the staff's fringe benefits from the return. The accountant, of course, did not last long in his job. Not only should the ATO audit the Racing New South Wales finances, we clearly need the New South Wales Auditor General on the job as proposed in the bill. Finally, Racing New South Wales has consistently broken another New South Wales law, the Workplace Surveillance Act. Under oath at the Rosehill Select Committee, the CEO was asked if his organisation surveilled its staff through CCTV cameras and the monitoring of web traffic. He said this was absolute rubbish. He said, again, Mr. Latham, you can smear me all you like, but there is absolutely zero credibility to what you're saying. Well, yes, there is. Racing New South Wales has a formal policy, of which it never informs its staff, that the surveillance will be continuous and ongoing. The policy concludes, accordingly, employees should not have the expectation of electronic media privacy. The Workplace Surveillance Act, short of a magistrate's order, deemed surveillance of staff to be illegal unless there is a prior notification and a clear outline of what the surveillance involves. This never happens at Racing New South Wales. In March 2021, all staff had their web traffic monitored without knowing it. There is a surveillance camera in every workspace and even the lunchroom, basically everywhere bar the toilets. Orwellian style, the cameras are used to constantly monitor and investigate staff movements. One would have thought a Labor government would act against this abuse of workers' rights, but the Attorney General, mimicking David Harris, has said, that's right, you guessed it, it's a matter for Racing New South Wales. How long can these illegalities go on? How long can the Minns government and this Parliament allow Racing New South Wales to operate as a rogue regulator with some kind of weird dictatorship where in Volandis land they see themselves as answerable to absolutely no one? This Parliament created Racing New South Wales. It now has a pressing responsibility to repair the power and balance to make the regulator accountable to the Parliament, the ICAC and the Auditor General. The existing statutory provisions have failed. The Racing New South Wales Board has been willfully blind to the illegal behaviour and mismanagement of its senior officials. The chair, Saran Cook, is a racing novice, famously asking breeders in the Hunter Valley when their stallions are going back to race. She told the Select Committee the proposal was for the Minns government to buy Rosehill Racecourse. We might say she's clueless, but she's worse than that. She's a Volandis acolyte who signs any letter, any excuse, any falsehood they put in front of her at Druitt Street. And he goes on and on and on and on. He goes, I know most MPs... Oh, sorry, I meant to read this bit. Under the current Act, Racing New South Wales has an Integrity Assurance Committee, but it rarely meets and obviously has done nothing about the integrity breaches well known to Racing New South Wales staff. The committee is headed by another Volandis man, Troy Grant, known in racing circles for his attempt to destroy a racing code. You know him, Glenn?
No, I don't know the name, no.
Troy Grant, who, surprise, surprise, is also the well-travelled chair of what they call the International Rugby League. There is no limit to the protection and patronage network around the CEO at Racing New South Wales. If the Parliament does not act, the abuses will simply continue and more racing participants will suffer. I know most MPs shun the track and see it as something of a niche interest, but the ramifications for racing cannot be ignored any longer. This is an industry generating over $3.3 billion in economic activity in our state each year. Employs more than 50,000 people, either directly or indirectly. In many country towns, it is an essential money spinner and focus of social activity and social capital. There are over 90,000 people engaged in racing in New South Wales as employees, volunteers or participants. It's for the participant, that doesn't mention the punters. It is for the participants that I am moving the second reading of the bill, blah, 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 blah. Until I used to enjoy the races as a carefree escape from politics. Now politics has followed me to the track, listening to the crushing stories of how so many people have had the joy of racing drained from them because they stood up for themselves, expressed a differing opinion and refused to worship at the altar of Peter Volandis. Like the Warwick Farm trainer who was told by Racing New South Wales that they would no longer take acceptances for his horses, that is, running him out of business, simply because he had a disagreement with the stewards over the timing of COVID protocols. Like the Rosehill trainer done in because he was a critical voice on the Trainers Association board. Like the Country Race Club, threatened with deregistration because some of its officials disagreed on social media about the abandonment of one of its meetings. Like the racing website refused media access in Sydney because they have an opinion that Rosehill Racecourse should not be sold. Racing should be an industry open to all, with all opinions, aspirations and ambitions well and truly welcome. I've always been opposed to the concentration of power to the elites running things at the expense of mass participation. Blah, 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 blah. There are other improprieties at Racing New South Wales, such as the CEO interfering in race day nominations, integrity matters and stewards' inquiries. Initially, Mr Volandis told the Rosehill Committee that he never, ever interferes in stewards' inquiries, but under pressure and through documented advice from the Colleen Walker inquiry at Mudgee, he then had to concede that he runs all the New South Wales stewards' inquiries. In integrity matters, selected trainers have a direct line to the CEO to call off inspections and water down penalties while others are left to hang. Recently,
I remember when you said I don't have anything to do with any of the stewards' inquiries. I watched the thing and I laughed. And then under, like you said, what happened under pressure, you basically said, oh, no, I do. It's like you lie, but then if you say, no, I've changed my evidence, it's then not a lie.
Yep.
So good.
Recently, Vin Cox has shown he has a Midas touch in racing with famous winners like Via Sistina and Treasure of the Moment in the Yulong colours. When he was at Godolphin, Vin Cox had to fight off attempts by Peter Volandis to pressure him into running Animo in the Golden Eagle in 2022 instead of the Cox Plate at Moonee Valley. That was an extraordinary interference in the determination of race day fields. Imagine the sense of unfairness the trainers and owners of runners already committed to the Golden Eagle will have felt at realising that if had Animo started, they could not win the race.
You still need more context, but
No,
but
also,
was it a phone call saying, can you please run it here, or was it like actual pressure?
Yeah, I agree with that, Gord, and I think that Volandis is within his rights to request that Animo run in the race. Like, can you please run Animo
I think
in our
request
race?
is the wrong word. I think ask nicely is the right way to phrase it. But I mean, if he's threatening repercussions, then that's when it becomes a real issue for me.
Yeah, he's
anyway, keep going, Mark. Who wrote this? Ray Thomas? No? Oh, let's keep going.
This is the problem with Peter Volandis wearing two hats. One as the promoter of Racing New South Wales and then the other as the chief regulatory decision maker. In isolation, either role can be performed up to the expected standard, but both cannot be done together. In the first role, as a promoter of racing in New South Wales, the CEO gets to know hundreds of licensed people, urging them to build up racing in our state. In the second role, he licenses and regulates the same people. That is an unsustainable conflict of interest. In Victoria, the two roles are separate, and an integrity oversight body, is that Salperno, ensures there are no conflicts of interest. We need that in New South Wales. Let me give you another example of how the cronyism at Racing New South Wales is everywhere. The number of people in the media who have been bought off is phenomenal, and the CEO has openly admitted that is his strategy. You would think, in terms of journalistic ethics, that if someone says they are buying influence from you, you would not participate in their scam. But not Ben English and Bevan Shields, the editors of the Daily Telegraph and the Sydney Morning Herald. They were once again in the director's room at Royal Randwick for the Everest, completely undeclared and apparently unbothered.
And Mark, let me just jump in there. Ben English is the fellow I said that used that word. Earlier, I said I watched something on TV. There's some bloke, and he used the word, that we were talking about earlier.
In relation to,
I said there's some word they when you shake things up. That word,
disruptor.
Yeah, he used the disruptor word. Ben English. That's the bloke. There you go.
Right.
He's a disruptor. No,
he wasn't disrupting in the director's room at Randwick for the Everest. Completely, yes. The worst cronyism, the one that shocks members in this place and anyone it raises, concerns Daniel Hadley, the son of Ray. Hadley Jr. was run out of the New South Wales Police Force for cocaine abuse. He got off in court by pleading mental illness. Of course he did. I'm all for rehabilitation for people to get over their drug addictions and mental illnesses and to find alternative employment. It's just that future work in integrity-related jobs is not such a good fit for them. Yet Peter V'landys, in a nod to Ray Hadley, gave Daniel a start in the integrity unit Racing New South Wales, promoted him to be the general manager of integrity, and is now grooming him, believe it or not, to be the next chief steward when the elderly incumbent retires.
Couldn't possibly happen, guys.
Daniel Hadley
Yes,
is not...
it could. Because what's right isn't what happens.
Couldn't possibly happen.
Listen to
what he's already, the position he's already got to should never have happened already. So things that shouldn't happen.
Yeah, but there's just so many stewards that have put 20 years in for that job that young Tom Moxley,
they're probably,
since he was a teenager. He's nearly 40. You know, he's got to be favourite.
Tom's job, surely. But there aren't
Tom's
that many that have put in 20 years because they've been lured elsewhere.
What I'm saying, the argument that things that shouldn't happen, it doesn't bear fruit for me.
Imagine Daniel Hadley sitting on a protest.
Imagine him being on an integrity board.
Listen to what Latham says next. Daniel Hadley is an obvious target for organised crime to fix races by offering a permanent drug supply.
Did Mark Latham write this for Parliament?
Yes.
He is my fucking hero, this bloke. He's a funny boy. He was also at this party I was at, but I didn't get to talk to him. I was too busy keeping Alan Jones out of the men's toilets.
Anyway, he says, get him a job. Get him a job somewhere, sure, but not in integrity. It's shocking that racing in New South Wales is run through patronage, cronyism and influence buying. So that's Latham's speech to Parliament last week.
Did Latham miss any of it? Is that goes before Parliament, all them words?
Yeah, that's public. So
it's fair to say that Peter's a dead man walking.
No, not at all. Well, not from a legal perspective, because he's got the you're allowed to say what you want because you get parliamentary privilege.
Yeah. It's just fascinating.
Yeah, but the government can't look at all these facts and then not give him a tap. Say, just go.
No, but he's not proving that they're facts.
No, he's entitled to defend them, V'landys.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. I'm sure he will. Sounds like the fight's on, eh?
It's on.
Yeah,
it's hard not to like
guess
Mark
what? Nothing will happen anyway because people in power just get away with it. I mean, look at the history we've got here. Like, you know, Alan Jones only gets caught when he's 83. Well, he's already just about dead anyway. You know what I mean? He's probably been getting away with it for 50 years. You've got bloody Neville Rand, you know, comes out after it's already too late and nothing really happens anyway. All the bad stuff about Bill Waterhouse only comes out after he dies and a book's finally written and probably only half of it's in there. These people with power, they just get away with it. And sorry to have a go at a family member that you two are paid by, but I'm not paid by them. So
yeah, they bought us off, Glenn, haven't they? That family.
Yeah, well, because you guys go to parties, so yeah.
Yeah,
I've got to say the calamari prior to dinner was unfucking believable. Not to mention the main, and then the dessert was unbelievable. What a night.
I got the horse right here, the name is Paul Revere, and here's a guy that says if the weather's clear, can do. This guy says the horse can do.